And we're live. Hello, everyone. This has been a long-awaited special offer, which is an interview featuring a client, friend, ally, incredible repository of wisdom about all things to do with alternative financial platforms and new paradigm approaches to how we can disconnect ourselves from this super dysfunctional money system that has a long history of being a system of power and dominance and of inequality, and reinstate our personal sovereignty through the transitional times that we're in. You know, where so many of us are being faced with these huge choices. We are put in these situations of crises, personal crises with our finances and our long-term security. And so I think it's great in a way that we're ready, willing, and open to conversing about these different options and learning more about them. And it really is the possibility of paving a whole new way in the future. So my guest is Marco, and Marco is choosing to be anonymously portrayed here to protect his anonymity. So welcome, Marco.
Thank you very much, Charlotte, and it's a pleasure to be here. And I look forward to informing your customers of what I know.
Awesome. So
your viewers, I should say.
Yeah, we have such a plethora of different topics and rabbit holes that we could go down that we've talked about and considered. We've decided for brevity this time around, because Marco really has just got such a plethora of information that we could go on for hours, but we're going to try to keep it fairly succinct, and we're going to start today with these topics. Crypto and blockchain basics. I'm going to come in and just be asking some very basic questions about these things, and then moving into blockchain and governance, and finally financial strategies moving forward. So why don't you start off, Marco, with where you'd like to begin in terms of crypto and blockchain basics and how you see this as such an important transitional step for us at this time.
Yes. Okay, well, if your audience doesn't have any understanding of crypto or blockchain at all right now, I think maybe that'd be a good area to start. I think perhaps one of the simplest ways to describe crypto and the blockchain is that we have two types of financial instruments there. We have coins and we have tokens. All right, so coin is just like a dollar note, you know, or a 50-cent coin, and it has intrinsic value, but that's all it has. Okay, so there's an agreed upon value there. So one Bitcoin is worth what, 60,000 US at the moment or something like that. That's the agreed upon value, and that's all it offers. It just functions pretty much the same way as money does. It's not totally fungible like money is, but it is very close to being totally fungible. Okay. The other type of crypto that's out there, other type of financial instrument is one called a token. Now, a token is smart money, it's programmable money, and it's most probably almost like a share in a way. Okay, so when you're buying a token, you're buying a share in a business. Okay, so one of the ones that I really like at the moment is one called Theta. And
how do you spell that? How do you spell
Theta,
that, Marco?
like the Greek letter of the alphabet.
Okay. T-H-E.
So Alpha, Gamma, Delta, Theta.
Yeah, got it.
And Theta is a good example of how a token works. Okay, so Theta has a whole bunch of very interesting, very powerful organizations behind it. It has one of the founders of YouTube behind it. It has a whole bunch of big companies in the entertainment industry behind it, like Netflix, Sony, Google. Okay, and the reason why all these big companies are flocking to Theta is because Theta is going to solve a very important problem that their data centers are going to have in the future when people finally start buying 8K TVs. All right, so when high definition first came out, high definition TVs first came out, they were 2K. All right, so that was what was considered full HD. Now we have 4K, which is double that. Soon, in a few years' time, we're going to have 8K. All right, so when you're streaming from Netflix or YouTube or whatever, it's like you're doing a full HD 2K stream, you need to have a minimum internet speed of 5 megabits per second to be able to see that full HD quality. Okay. Now, if you have a nice TV and a good internet connection and you want to watch 4K, you need to have 4 times that speed. You need to have 25 megabits per second internet speed to be able to successfully see a 4K video stream to your TV. Now, when 8K comes out, that's going to be 4 times again. So that's going to be like about 100 megabits per second that you're going to need to stream an 8K TV show or movie. Okay, so that's going to cause huge problems for the data centers that stream this information to you. So for example, in my country, Australia, we would have maybe 1 or 2 data centers. We'd have a few data centers, maybe in Melbourne and Sydney, and they'll be streaming to the rest of the country. And when 8K comes out, it's going to cause a huge traffic jam when people decide to start streaming 8K content from those servers. And it's technically not going to be feasible to easily stream that without causing buffering issues. And you know, you're watching the TV and it's like, and the picture's pausing all the time and stuff like that, because the data centers can't handle that much centralized traffic coming out of them. All right. So what Theta does, it totally decentralizes the traffic for 8K, 4K, and 2K content. And the way it does that is by Theta will most probably be built into your TV or your computer or your phone. You'll have the option to flick a button on there and say, look, I want to share my internet connection and the storage of my phone with people in my neighborhood. You watch your favorite YouTube video or something on Netflix or whatever. And what happens when you finish watching that show, it's downloaded onto your device, okay? And then that copy that you have is shared with the local neighborhood. So instead of streaming from a centralized location, so let's just say there's someone in Australia, they're living on the other side of the country in Perth, okay? Instead of trying to stream from Melbourne or Sydney, they'll be streaming from someone in their own neighborhood, okay? And that decreases the pressure on those centralized data centers, okay? And you get paid to do that, obviously, because this is an expense on your part. You're paying for the storage on your device. You're paying for the internet from the internet provider. So you'll get paid in Theta Fuel, most probably, which is a type of token to help facilitate this for those companies.
Fascinating.
Okay,
absolutely fascinating. Yeah.
So
does this somehow put like Netflix out of business because people?
Oh no, this is to help Netflix. Okay, so
I'm
and another
confused.
thing that's great about I'm a bit anti-establishment, to be honest. Full disclosure here, but to be fair to Google and Netflix and all that, this is it's like a huge money saver for them. Okay, because the cost of running their data centers is now being outsourced to us.
Oh, I see.
Okay, they are paying for us for that privilege. Okay, but their infrastructure no longer they don't have to spend as much. If Theta became really popular, they're not going to have to spend anywhere near as much money in the future on building huge data centers to be able to stream all the traffic out to all their viewers.
Okay, got it. Okay, so it's just where it's being streamed from it's what's being added as a result.
And because there's such a logarithmic increase in bandwidth as you go from 2K to 8K, it's just going to be technically not really feasible to stream 8K content from centralized data centers.
Okay, so what does this Theta token mean for regular folks who are looking to invest in something that's going to be really relevant in the upcoming decade or so? Okay,
well, just like like I said before, it's similar to a way. It's more than just a stock. Okay, it's smart programmable money. But when you're looking at these tokens, you'd look at them when you're choosing one to invest in. You'd look at them the same way you'd look at the stock. Okay, you look at who's behind the business, what the business idea is behind it. Okay, does the business idea make any sense? Do you think there's a market for it? Okay, and is that something you want to participate in? So you'd obviously want to see a profit there. And some people like myself would also like to see, it's like introduce an ethical side of that too, as well. It's like, do I trust these companies? Do I want to deal with them? I do trust Theta, even though they're in with the big boys. And I think that, yeah, they have a very good future. But that's not investment advice. And I think that's something we should have started with, actually, Charlotte. It's like we're providing access to information here. We're not offering financial advice. These are just tips and pointers to be a guide to help you make your own decisions on what you feel would be best for your own financial interests. So don't go out and buy Theta just because I like it, because it could crash tomorrow, and then you're not going to be happy with either of us in that case. So.
Exactly. It's a very uncertain world in a lot of ways, and we're having to learn about a lot of these things so that we can make our own choices. As you were saying, you know, I just feel what I'm starting to get the sense of is it's the power of autonomy, sovereignty, personal choice that's being kind of invoked here. I got to ask you, because I've been hearing about this crypto, and since we're just talking about crypto here, I've been hearing about this new crypto. I think it's called Shiba or something. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, Shiba Inu is what's called a meme coin. Okay, so it's based on a meme, which is like an internet joke, for no lack of a better word. You know, when things go viral, it's called a meme. And where Shiba Inu, it's like Shiba Inu is like the little brother of Dogecoin. Okay, which is the big brother of out of all the meme coins. Okay, so when people in the crypto industry create these meme coins, because they're just created as a bit of fun and a bit of a lark, they have very, very little value. Okay, so we're talking about such little value, they're not even worth 1 cent. Okay, they're like about 1,000th of a cent or 10,000th of a cent. Okay, so
what's the purpose? What's the purpose?
Well,
of
it's just something people buy for fun. You know, it's just like it's not meant to be taken seriously. That's I guess what I'm trying to say. Is like
is the purpose to kind of really help us wrap our heads around how fast these things can move and how they can grow, and how it's all
what
about.
Some people believe the establishment is trying to do with this. Okay, they want to get us interested in crypto, and seeing these huge, enormous gains that these meme coins are making is one way to pike people's interest and like get them to think, well, gee, maybe I can make a bit of money out of this. So I'll just go back to the big brother Doge coin for a second here, and Dogecoin, I like to call him Doggy Coin, but people get upset when I call him that. His Dogecoin is based on a Japanese dog. Okay, it's just a picture of a Japanese dog. That's the icon, the symbol for it. And it's just a cute looking dog, and people's like, oh, I love that. Look at that dog. I'm going to buy that coin, but they're just buying it for fun. They're not buying it as an investment. So it's never really meant to be an investment. It's ended up being one, but it wasn't originally meant to be that at all. And
it's just ended up being one because so many people have bought it.
Yeah. So there are doggy coins. There's Dogecoin billionaires out there that have bought 1 billion Dogecoin. Okay, that would have cost them maybe. Well, let me just go back to Shiba Inu. There's someone that bought $8,000 worth of Shiba Inu about 9 months or a year ago, I think it was. And he's now worth several $1 million.
Right. So it's kind of like it's like a collector's game, really. Like
exactly. That's most probably the best way to put it. Okay.
Like you're going to collect, I don't know, hockey cards or something.
By all means, go and buy Shiba Inu if you want, but don't throw your whole life savings in it, because it's out there as a bit of a lark. It's a bit of a joke. It's a bit of fun. That's much the best way to describe it. It's a bit of fun. Have a bit of fun with it. Okay. You know, put $100 on it or something like that. If you can afford to lose $100, it doesn't matter. Okay. But if but don't take it seriously as like put your whole superannuation or your whole lifetime's investments into it. Okay. Because it's not meant for that.
Got it.
Okay. It's a bit of fun.
So we started off with crypto basics. Can you talk a little bit more about blockchain, the concept of that? I don't quite fully understand it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought me back to that, because I still haven't quite finished explaining the difference between a coin and a token. All right. So as I was saying before, it's like a bit like a stock, but there's also smart programmable money. And one way that people in the industry like to describe it is if there's like a real world 3D world equivalent of what a token would operate like, a vending machine would be a good example. Okay, especially when we're talking about decentralized exchanges, which we might talk about later. Okay, so you have a vending machine that's sitting in the street in the middle of nowhere. There's no human interaction at all. There's no human running that. Okay, you go in there and you throw in $1 bill or some coins, and it spits out a drink or some food or whatever it has inside of it, and it's all totally automated. Okay, so that's an example of how a smart contract could work. Another example I like to use is, let's just say I bought a car from you. All right, so let's say I like your car and you want to offload it because you don't need it anymore. Let's just say that this is sometime in the future and we don't have keys anymore. We just have like fingerprints as a way to unlock the car, and maybe eye sensors or something like that, where they just take a scan of our irises or something.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, that sounds a little bit Big Brother, but it's an interesting way to explain it. So we could have a smart contract in place where the biometrics required to get into that car don't change until the money is in your account. All right.
Okay.
So once the money's into your account, that car is now mine. You don't even have to be home for me to be able to pick the car up.
Right.
Okay. You could be on a holiday overseas and just enjoying yourself. Okay. And you've sold the car to me, and it takes a while for the money to come through for some reason. But as soon as it comes through, I can just come around to your house, jump in the car, and away I go. All right. And by the same token, it's like, if you pardon the pun,
I was going to say, yeah.
If you come back from your holidays and you decide, you know what, I really like that car, I want to take it back again, you can't, because the biometrics is now tied to me due to the contract. So it's not going to recognize your fingerprints anymore. Okay. When you put your eyes in front of the iris scanner, it's not going to recognize your eyes. Okay. So that's just another example of how you can program a contract to, it's like, fund a financial transaction. So another thing that's important to understand about both coins and tokens, what they both do, what the blockchain in general does, it automates the process of trust.
Yes, this is fascinating to me. Please tell me about this, because to me, this is what this whole game is about, really.
Yeah. So what it's supposed to do is automate the process of trust. Okay. And the way it does that is through something called consensus. All right. So let's just say you were at a party last night and you're talking to me today, and I turn around and say to you, oh yeah, I was at that same party, Charlotte. And it's like, I'm not really sure whether to believe Marco or not. It's like, I don't remember seeing Marco there. So you think, well, how can I find out? Because I trust Marco. I think he's not lying to me, but I still don't quite fully believe him. Okay, well, what I'll do is I'll just ring up some of the other people that were at the party last night. I'll ask them, hey, did you see Marco?
Okay.
Okay, the first person in his picture say, no, I didn't see Marco there. It's like, no, I don't think he was there, Charlotte, sorry. But then you call up another 3 or 4 people after that, and they'll say, yeah, Marco was there. I saw him there. He's having a great time. It's like he's out the back in the shed, talking to this horrible guy who looked like Donald Trump. But yeah, he was there. And then you finally get through mass consensus, the fact that I was there. Okay, even though you didn't actually see me, you now know that I was there at that party.
Mass consensus and trust.
So that's how they automate the process of trust. So when we get back to Bitcoin, for example, when Bitcoin, the way Bitcoin automates the process of trust is you have these computers. It's like it's like pretty much anyone can run a full node of the Bitcoin blockchain on their computer. And what happens when you do that is your computer will be doing 2 things, as well as storing the whole blockchain. It'll be validating transactions and creating new Bitcoins. Now, the way a Bitcoin is created, it's created through something called proof of work, which is another way they automate the process of trust through mass consensus. So the way Bitcoin works is a computer has to solve a mathematical equation, and it has to be the first one in the whole peer-to-peer network of blockchain nodes to do that. And when it's finished, it tells the other computers in the blockchain network, hey, I've just solved this this mathematical equation. This Bitcoin is now mine. Okay, and the other computers run that same mathematical equation again and just check the result against the result that the computer's given. And if the result matches up, they'll confirm via consensus, hey, this computer now has mined that Bitcoin. That the owner of that computer now has 1 Bitcoin.
Okay,
right.
So back up for a second here.
Yeah.
Please. The computer, meaning just your regular computer, is solving.
Well, it's like it used to be you could do it with regular computers. I'm not so sure you could actually do it now because the amount of hardware that you need to buy for that sort of thing is quite expensive. You need a very expensive computer.
This is just hypothetical example then. Yeah.
So yeah, but you used to be able to do that in the past. When Bitcoin first came out, you could use your home computer to do it quite easily.
Okay.
As
so then that adds an element of like there's a game aspect to this too. It's like a little bit of a challenge, a quest or something to mine the Bitcoin.
Yes, it is a bit of a challenge and a bit of a quest. But I think the most important thing is like it's a way to like create a currency that's backed by something at least. Okay, and so it's backed by the processing power of the computer that's required to solve that mathematical equation, which is why people are worried about the environmental aspects of Bitcoin, because the way Bitcoin works is the first Bitcoin that ever, let me just back up and explain something else that's important to understand about the blockchain. Pretty much all the cryptos, except for some of the 99% of the cryptos out there all have a limited supply. Okay, so there's only ever going to be a certain amount of Bitcoin, for example. I can't remember what the exact number is off the top of my head, but I think it might be something like 1 billion or something like that, or 10 billion.
And are we near that number now?
We're past the 50% mark of that. Okay. All right. The first Bitcoin that was ever mined was very easy to mine. Okay. The mathematical equation that computer had to solve was extremely easy. Okay. But as we get closer and closer to the very last blockchain that's ever going to be mined, it's like the amount of computing power required to mine that last Bitcoin is going to be huge. Okay, so we're talking about a global network of supercomputers required to mine that last Bitcoin. Okay, whereas before you could mostly do it in a laptop with the very first one, because the mathematical equation that needs to be solved to mine that last Bitcoin is like it's just going to require a huge astronomical amount of computing power.
Okay. So basically, what you're saying is it's getting harder and harder to get into that game.
And one of the things that's great about crypto, most of the coins have a limited supply, which means as the supply shrinks, they become deflationary instead of inflationary.
Yes. Can you talk a little bit about how that relates to that's basically opposite of the debt-based economy that we've been living under, the debt-based currency system.
Yeah. So, but just to back up a bit, deflation is not always a good thing. Okay, so for economic reasons, sometimes deflation can be a bad thing. That means the value of everything is getting less. Okay, but what a lot of people in the industry like to say when it comes to crypto, the deflationary aspects are more a reflection of how much inflation there is in their own economy, and it's coming closer to reflecting true value of what our assets should be worth.
Okay.
Okay, so but that's one way of looking at it. Just one last thing about the blockchain. It's like these same computers that are mining the Bitcoins are also validating all the transactions. Okay, so let's just say that car I bought from you, I didn't do it with a token. I decided to buy it with Bitcoin. Well, I suppose it doesn't matter whether you used a token or Bitcoin. There's going to be a transaction fee involved here, just like there is when you use like a transfer money between bank accounts. All right, and those computers, they get that fee. All right, so, and also together through mass consensus, they validate that transaction. So the first computer that sees the transaction says, Marco just gave some Bitcoin to Ashala. Okay, and other computers look at that transaction and they look to see where it's coming from, which wallets it's going to, and all that sort of thing, and then they validate, or it's like they either approve or don't approve that transaction through mass consensus. All right, so that's one of the things that happens on the blockchain as well, which is very important. There's a lot of validation going on, and there's also staking, which we might get into later as well, which is another way.
Well, I was just going to say, because in our notes here, I see we've gone from that, which is a continuation of that automation of trust, towards the movement of apps and websites to the next version of the internet.
Okay. So we're in a very interesting time here. This is, it's like we're back in 1999 again, and everyone's talking about websites, and people trying to get their hand. What's a website? What's email? And so I don't know if people can remember back what it was like back in those days, but I know for me it was very hard to get my head around it initially. It's a very strange concept. It was very abstract.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. But you would just look at this thing on your computer, and it would show you like someone's website that was out in like cyberland somewhere.
Yeah, it's just like, how does it work? And just like back in 1999, there was a little bit of e-commerce and stuff like that, but the web hadn't been fully fleshed out yet. It's like Amazons and eBays and all that were only just starting back then. And what we're going through right now with blockchain, as far as the learning curve concerned, is maybe double or triple that type of learning curve.
I'll say,
to try and understand what's going on with that, because it's like there's a lot to know when it comes to blockchain, and it's still early days as to exactly how it's going to flesh out. So back to it's like apps and websites, the future of apps and websites. What they're talking about when it comes to the blockchain, that the blockchain is going to fuel something called Web3. Okay, so this is the third version of the web. Okay, the first version of the web was just like dumb static websites that didn't have any e-commerce on them or anything. You couldn't buy anything. You could just look at them. They didn't have any brains behind them. You couldn't click a button and make something happen on it. Okay, like you can now. All you can do is just click on a button, or it'll take you to another page of the website.
It wasn't an interactive thing.
Exactly. That's a really great way to put it. I like that. Yeah. So yeah, Web 1 wasn't very interactive. Web 2, which is what we're in now, is a lot more interactive, and there's a lot of great things going on with Web 2, like e-commerce and stuff like that. Anyone can start their own store and sell to anyone in the world, and they can have all sorts of functionality in their website. So it can do all sorts of interesting things. So you click on a button on a website, and it could send a whole bunch of emails to someone, or something like that. Yeah. Web 3 is going to be sitting on the blockchain, okay? And because the nature of the blockchain is that it's decentralized, then these websites will also be decentralized, okay? So instead of having a central hosting platform where you're hosting your website, and it's like in the future, what we're going to have is like a situation where, similar to what I was talking before about Theta, okay? People will be renting out their storage and their internet traffic to two various blockchains, and getting paid for the privilege of doing so.
Yeah.
And if your website starts getting a lot of traffic, then it could automatically grow across the blockchain, so the traffic becomes less and less centralized, so people can actually look at what you're offering on the website. Same with apps, okay? So apps can be hosted via the blockchain on your device or other people's devices.
Okay,
so that's what we're talking about when we're talking about Web 3. That's most probably a very simple way to put it. But also a lot of other things that are currently not on the internet at all, or only partially on the internet. Well, I suppose you could say that the stock market is completely on the internet, but that will end up on the blockchain as well, more than likely. All right.
Yes.
So when you buy,
sorry to interrupt you, Marco. I just really want people to understand what's the benefit of this, because you were describing to me just before we got on the call an analogy of like the blockchain being like the that big cable
Oh,
that got
right.
cut, if
Yes.
it gets cut. Yeah,
Yes.
I like that
Now,
analogy.
one of the things that I was talking about in that example is like, well, there's only one truly peer-to-peer, completely decentralized blockchain that I know of out there, and that one is called Holochain.
Holochain.
Yeah,
Okay.
or Holo for short, HOLO. That's an interesting project. But all the other blockchains do have they're not completely decentralized. Okay, there's like they're a lot more decentralized than a single website, for example. Okay, but they're not completely decentralized. They have master nodes which are running the blockchain and all that sort of thing. And yeah, it's just not completely decentralized yet. What was your original question again?
Well, if we're going towards wanting more of a decentralized, one of the benefits of that, having it completely decentralized, is how it creates the security within the single, the individual cells, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. So yeah, I guess even if the blockchain is not completely decentralized like Holochain is, there's still some huge advantages there. Everyone around the world, well, not everyone around the world, but quite a few people around the world will have full copies of that blockchain sitting on their servers. Okay, so if the internet goes down and we lose power for a few days, as long as they've backed up that blockchain correctly, then as soon as the power and the internet comes back on again, we're up and running again. Okay.
Great. Yes.
So,
I love it. That's super exciting to me, because obviously, that seems to be something that there's a growing concern about, and rightfully so, I believe.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. So let's go on to, we did say, you were mentioning that there's a connection between this concept of blockchain and governance, and something to do with the founding fathers of the US. And
well, I just really like that sort of thing. But yeah, maybe I'm drawing a pretty long bow here trying to tie these two together, but I'm going to try.
Okay.
So let me just first start with how the founding fathers of the US Constitution decided, it's like how they're going to form their government. One of the things they did was they looked at the Iroquois Confederacy. Okay, so this is a confederation of tribes on the east coast of America, and this confederacy was like it was just like a federal government made up of nation tribe states. And the way voting worked in that system was it was quite interesting in the fact there's like a matriarchal system. What would happen, all the wise female elders of the tribes, they would vote for their chiefs. Okay, and then once the chief was voted into power, which quite often usually a man, obviously, they would just step back into their communities and look after their own families and sort of do what they considered to be important to them. But they would always keep a watchful eye on what their leaders were doing. And this is not just for their own individual tribes, but for the Confederacy as a whole. So if any chieftain decided to, pull him, like get out of line and become a bit too warlike or something like that, then these female elders were able to pull the rug out from under him and it's like and put someone else in place. Okay, and that was all done by mass consensus. Okay, so that's my long bow.
Okay, so there's a decentralization of power.
Yes.
And structure, authority, and governance.
And obviously the US founding fathers didn't do it in a way where it's just the matriarchy that was voting. They did it in a way where it's the states. Yes. Okay. And each state's retain their own sovereignty. Okay. And that's very important when you look at the difference between a republic and democracy in general, because democracy in its unchecked form is just mob rule. Yep. Okay. So let's just say you finished the interview with me today and you decided to go out shopping and you stand in the and you take this elevator up to the next floor of the shopping centre you're in, and some nasty individuals decide to get in there with you, and they decide between the three of them that they want to rob you. Okay, before you get out on the next floor. So there's some mass consensus happening there. Okay, it's a form of democracy, but it's not one that we would like, because it's mob rule, and it's like we need to have checks and balances in place to protect individual as well as state and national sovereignty.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's why the concept of a republic is very important, because it protects that, and that concept of a republic that the Iroquois Confederacy had is like loosely translated to what we have in the US now, which is why a lot of people are so patriotic and love the US, and we have people around the world that just love the United States, because they look at what they have, they look at the Bill of the Rights, they look at how the republic works, and I think that's something I'd like to have for my own country.
So the ideology is amazing, and where some of the centralized power has been obstructed, co-opted, and like it unfortunately hijacked is always a risk.
So with that background of understanding how governments work, I might get into the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff later. I'm not sure. We'll see how we go. But in a nutshell, one of the problems that we have in the blockchain with governance, we'll just back up and explain how governance works right now. Okay, so right now we have these decentralized exchanges. So there's two types of exchanges where you can buy crypto from. There's a centralized exchange, which is a business run by a whole bunch of humans. Okay, and it's just like an ordinary business. Okay, so it's like and it's all centralized, and that's good and it's bad. When it comes to decentralized exchanges, it's like that vending machine that I was talking about before. Okay, that's sitting in the parking lot, and you just put some money in it. Okay, and it spits out some food or drink. With the decentralized exchange, it operates pretty much exactly the same way. Okay, you get onto this decentralized exchange, you exchange one type of token or coin for another, and it all happens automatically through a process called automated market making. Okay, because it's totally automated. There's no human involvement here. They have oracles, which are a type of crypto that predict what the price of the market should be for those particular token pairs or coin pairs. And when you get involved with a decentralized exchange, you can do something where you can stake liquidity. Okay, so when you're staking liquidity, it's called liquidity mining. And when you're liquidity mining, what you're doing is, like, let's just say you have 1,000 Bitcoin and 20,000 Ethereum. Okay, and 1,000 Bitcoin is equivalent to 20,000 Ethereum for argument's sake. You put that on a decentralized exchange, and you allow them to borrow your Bitcoin and your Ethereum, and you get when people start trading those pairs, there's transaction fees involved, and you get a share of those fees.
Okay. Right? Okay. So now, I was just going to ask you, Marco, what is the benefits and drawbacks of both the centralized and the decentralized?
Okay. Well, I'll just finish with this first, and then we'll get to that. So you're getting a share of the transactions for giving them the liquidity that they require to run those trades. So the reason why this is important is because let's just say you want to buy 100,000 Bitcoin today. If there's only 10,000 available on the market, then the liquidity is not there to buy it. And by the same, and if you have the reverse situation, you want to offload 100,000 Bitcoin, but there's only people looking to buy 10,000 of it, we have another liquidity problem. So that's where the liquidity mining comes in. It helps solve that problem. And when you get onto a decentralized exchange and you start allowing your coins to be liquidity mined, you get not only do you get paid part of the transaction fees, but you also get issued a governance token. All right. Now, what that governance token does, it allows you to participate in the future decision making of how that decentralized exchange is going to work. Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
So it's like
now
it's like a bonus that you get for participating.
That's exactly right. So it's like a free bonus you get for free. So not only get a share of the transactions, you get these tokens given to you, which allow you to vote in the future of that decentralized exchange or the decentralized finance platform. And and not only does it allow you to vote. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so not only does it allow you to vote in the future of how that platform will work. So let's just say, for example, there's a couple of other coins that you would like to see put on the exchange. You can put a proposal in for people to vote on, and people will either vote it up or vote it down. And if it gets up, then those new token pairs come onto the platform. Okay, or if you feel that we should get, everyone that's liquidity mining should get a bigger share of the transactions, that's something you could vote for as well. Okay. And these governance tokens also have a treasury. Okay, and what this treasury is used for is to market the platform and also allow other ancillary proposals to be voted on. Okay, so let's just say, for example, someone puts forward a proposal to educate the general public about how their particular decentralized exchange works and how crypto works in general, and they want to put some funds out of the treasury towards that people can vote on that, and that can happen if enough votes get up for that. Okay. And also the governance tokens have value in themselves. Okay, so you don't even have to participate in voting if you don't want to. You can just sell your tokens that you've been given as a bonus out on the open market, and they have financial value as well.
Awesome. So this whole thing is operating, the decentralized is operating similar to a traditional stock market. Is that right?
Well, yeah, but it's more like a vending machine because there's no human involvement at all. Well, no direct human involvement, I should say. There's no centralized person that is running this.
It's like a AI stock exchange.
I think it's maybe exactly like a vending machine. Okay, so so there are founders of these decentralized exchanges, and I suppose they have some ownership to a certain extent, but they're not really running it. The exchange is running on its own like a vending machine does.
I guess what I'm saying is there's an intelligence that's making these predictive analysis.
Yeah, that's where we get into oracles and stuff like that. And that's a very complex part of the blockchain. So I'm not sure we'll get into that today.
There today. We'll just stick with more of the basics, even though this feels pretty complex to me already.
Yeah.
So can we go now to centralized exchange and a little bit more about the benefits and drawbacks of that?
Okay, the centralized exchanges. Well, the benefits of a centralized exchange. They're much better for beginners, okay, especially centralized exchanges like Coinbase. Okay, so if you know nothing at all about crypto, you just go to the Coinbase website, and especially if you live in the US, you'll be able to withdraw money as well. But even if you don't live in the US, you'll at least be able to buy crypto and then just send it back to another exchange where you can cash it out. Okay, and you don't have to know anything at all about how crypto works.
Got it.
To be able to deal with that. Okay, whereas you do need a little bit more knowledge to deal with decentralized exchanges.
Right.
Okay. The disadvantages of the centralized exchanges, they're owned by people, and also they're a little bit more prone to hacking than decentralized exchanges. So that's another thing that's important to understand about crypto. And one thing I haven't mentioned yet is that you are your own bank. Okay. There's no one to call if you lose the seed phrases, which are a lot the keys for your crypto. It's like if you lost them, that's bad luck, unfortunately. So you've got to be very careful how you secure your funds. And one of the things that people will tell you in regards to security is to never leave the money that you have sitting inside your exchange wallet. Okay, so when you set up an account with Coinbase, for example, there will be a wallet there that's hiding your funds. That's under the control of Coinbase. It's not under the control of you. So what they're telling you is like what the experts will tell you is like you need to make sure that your money is never sitting on that exchange, that you've transferred it out into a wallet that's in your own possession. Okay, so that could be a software wallet that's sitting on your own computer, or even better, a hardware wallet, which can be allow you to store your funds offline without being connected to the internet at all, which is called cold storage. And that is better than leaving your funds in the exchange, because these exchanges can get hacked. Okay, and a lot of people have lots of money, have lost a lot of money. So Mt. Gox is most probably the biggest example of that, and they lost. People have lost billions. It might even be worth tens of billions of dollars worth of crypto from that hack. And the court case for that is still going now. It's like after nearly 10 years after it happened.
Right. Okay.
So these people have lost their money and they still haven't got it back yet.
Yeah, really unfortunate. Let's go on to, this is a great segue, talking about that, the security and really how to hang on to everything, including other currencies like precious metals, stocks, cash, and all that kind of stuff. So would you go on now, please, Marco, and give us some recommendations about financial strategies around how to work with these different currencies?
Yes, well, one of the things that I think is really super important to understand is like cryptocurrency should be part of your financial investment portfolio, not all of it.
Yes.
Okay.
And you were giving a ratio that you were recommending, a ratio.
Well, it's different for each individual. So if you're more heavily weighted towards a particular type of currency or investment, then that increases your risk. Okay, so that's something that's important to understand. So if you want to put 50 or 60 or 70% of your money into crypto, that's fine, but just understand doing that is going to increase your exposure and risk.
Yeah.
Okay, whereas if you just split it evenly between crypto, stocks, precious metals, and cash, then no matter how things play out in the financial markets, you usually got some sort of protection there.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I agree. And then you're basically, the idea is that you're, as you were saying, how to protect your crypto, where to store it. I also have to just put my little 2 cents worth in here, pardon the pun, about crypto, because I always say, as you're making your profits with crypto, why not skim them off and put them into either another currency, or even better, into some kind of project fund about starting a business that is something to do with real world resource security.
Exactly.
The big five that I call it, like, sustainable alternative housing, agriculture, education, healthcare, all those kinds of things, but actually putting it into an asset that's going to help sustain your life and the lives of your loved ones. Like that, to me, that's a great way. You're going to play this kind of cyber game. That's a beautiful way to ground the proceeds of that into something immediately usable. And
that's one way you can ethically, and I like to ethically invest as well. And that's one way you could do it. And it's funny you should mention that. One of my favorite YouTubers is a mentor to a guy called Jsnip. His name's Woo Woo Dude. And he has this saying all the time when he's talking about crypto: don't forget to take a lick of the ice cream before it melts.
Yeah, right.
Okay, because people will just sit there and look at the crypto portfolio, and it's like, oh, it's at 100,000 now. I'm going to wait till it gets to a million before I take anything out. No, take a look at the ice cream now. Take 20 grand out or 30 grand out. Leave the rest of it behind. Unless just say you've only put 10 grand in to begin with, you're still coming out ahead if things crash and you miss the timing of the top of the market.
Exactly. That's what I've been, my crypto friends, I'm like, come on, guys, like, you can bring out a little bit and put it into something, some community-based project that's going to actually really have value for you this year if things go awry, right? So awesome. Speak maybe a little bit about the other aspects like precious metals, stocks, and cash, and how we can hang on to them.
Well, there's one thing that I think that's very important, and the strategy is very similar to what I was saying before about crypto. Don't leave your crypto on the exchanges. Okay. Make sure you have them as much in your possession as possible, preferably in a hardware wallet. But if you can't afford to buy a hardware wallet right now, desktop software wallet is is like still
Okay.
quite good. Okay.
Okay.
There's also web-based wallets as well, which are not too bad, but and can still be better than just leaving them sitting on an exchange. But ultimately, if there's the best place to put them is in hardware, in a hardware wallet. Followed, if you don't have that, then a desktop wallet. If you don't have a desktop software wallet, then a web wallet. Okay, but never leave your crypto on an exchange if you can. Okay, so just be aware that if you do so, that you run the risk of losing it if it gets hacked.
Yes, got it.
Okay. Now that strategy, I believe, is best applied to all other types of investments as well. So if you have a lot of money, I don't recommend leaving a lot of it in the bank. I think it would personally be better to if you don't need to have it sitting there for housing loans or anything like that, I would take out as much as I can and make sure I have as much of a reserve of cash as possible at home. And also I would convert as much of that as I can into precious metals, and also make sure those precious metals I physically own. Okay, and they're in my. So the whole idea is we want everything that all the investments we want to have in our own possession. Okay, because when they're in our own possession, they're under our own control.
So we should get like safes, or what are you?
That's one thing to do. It's like Jsnip 4 had some interesting comments about that last night when I was watching him. He was saying it's like, these idiots, they get a safe, and some people just go and look in the bedroom, which is where people normally hide a safe, and they just walk out with it. And he's correct to a certain extent, but if you get a type of safe that can be bolted to the floor or to the furniture, that is how you should have a safe. You're going to have one in your home.
Okay.
All right. So you don't want to have one that people can just pick up and walk out with. Okay.
Got it.
All right. So if it's bolted to a big piece of furniture or to the floor, that makes it pretty much almost impossible to do that easily.
If you got it buried in your back garden.
Yeah, well, that's not very smart either, because if people forget where you buried your treasure, yeah, might have worked I don't think that even worked very well in the old pirate days, to be honest.
I know.
Yeah, so really, in a nutshell, if I could just sum it up in one sentence, it's like, make sure whatever investment you have in your possession, okay, and that you have the physical ownership of that in your possession. So you don't want to buy a silver certificate, okay, you want to buy the actual silver itself.
Yes.
Okay, if you have money sitting digitally in the bank, you want to have as much of that as possible sitting, and it doesn't have to be in a safe at home. You there are like storage units where you can rent safes out for like $10 or $20 a month. Okay, you can just have your stuff sitting there, so you don't have to worry about if someone's going to come home and try and hold you up at gunpoint and rob you of all your stuff.
Yeah. Okay,
so that's one way you could take care of it. And also, one last thing about blockchain is like, it's usually recommended, about crypto investing, it's usually recommended that you have your seed phrases or your keys or whatever it is, like that you need to get access back to your wallet again, is to have at least 3 copies of them. All right, and have those in 3 different places. Okay, so if you forget where it is in one spot, you know where it is in the other. And obviously you want to make sure that if you don't have safes, you have them in good hiding spots that you can remember, but other people can't easily find. Because once again, if they find it, you're your own bank, they could steal your money, and you come home and your wallet's all emptied out because they've decided to steal your Bitcoin or whatever.
Yeah, got it. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Marco. I want to finish off with just this little discussion about asset-backed currencies, which fuel production-based currency, and their comparison to the debt-backed fiat currencies.
Yes. Okay. So one of the things that is quite interesting about the crypto community, if you get involved in it a lot more, is that people are right into studying how currency in general works. And when you look at the history of currency, the best type of currencies that have been around are asset-backed currencies. So these are currencies that are usually backed by precious metals like gold or silver. All right, and when you have a financial system that's run like that, a government can't just print money out of thin air and cause inflation to happen by doing that. Okay, they have to back it if they're ethical, obviously. If they're ethical, they have to back it with some silver or some gold. And if they want to print more money, then they need to get more gold and silver, which increases the gold and silver mining production. Okay,
right.
so the amount of assets that are inside of a whole economy grow as a whole as the currency grows.
Right.
All right. So and also it tends to be a better hedge against inflation than a debt-based currency. Okay, so it's not to say that inflation can't happen with an asset-based currency. It's like a precious metals-backed currency, but it's held in check a lot more.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
And so then how are we basically transitioning out of this debt-based currency?
That's the thing. That's a lot of people that a lot of people that are gold and silver bugs like me would like to see a return to what used to be the financial system we used to have up until the early 70s, until the petrodollar come in, and back then it's like money globally was backed by silver and gold. Okay, so if you had a Canadian dollar or Australian dollar or a US dollar or a British pound, it's like it doesn't matter what currency you had, a French franc, they're all backed by precious metals. Okay, they're either backed by silver or backed by gold.
Okay.
Okay, and once again, it's like that keeps inflation in check as well. And also it does an interesting thing to the wealth gap as well, and to the profit margin of companies. So so most academic research, it's like that's looked into this, like and how that used to work in the past. It's like most companies back in the 50s and 60s, when we had that type of currency system, usually only had a profit margin around 10%, and that was pretty much all it could ever be. Okay, I wouldn't say it was impossible to be more than that or less than that, but usually that's what it would be. It's like it'd be 10% profit margin, regardless of how big or how successful your company was. Okay, and also the wealth gap tends to be a lot smaller than what it is now. So the research I've seen tends to show that the gap between the rich and poor is like, at a 10-to-1 ratio. So let's just say someone's making $100 a week. The big boss of the firm is making 1,000. Okay, not 10,000 or 100,000.
Yes.
Okay, so that tends to be kept in check a lot more by precious metals backed currency as well. Okay. And it's a much better system than debt-based fiat currencies, because debt-based fiat currencies tend to be cannibalistic by their very nature. They just swallow existing assets up, and they don't create any new ones.
Totally. Okay. So how do we unplug, Marco? How do we unplug from that fiat?
Okay, well, I think the most important thing we can do is invest in precious metals, especially silver, because silver is incredibly undervalued and suppressed. And one of the reasons why they do that is because silver and gold has always been seen as real money. Okay, and if silver and gold, if the value of that can be suppressed, then the debt-based fiat currency can succeed a lot more easily, because people will stay within that debt-based system. So it's really important that there has to be a lot of suppression in place for the price of silver. And to a lesser extent gold as well, because once the true value of that is discovered, then we have a serious issue for the issuers of debt-backed currency, because people will run away from that and they'll run over to silver and gold. And silver and gold has always been a hedge in times of economic crashes. Okay, the price of gold and silver always goes up, because people that know how money works, they will jump straight back into it. And the value of silver and gold just usually goes through the roof in those situations as well. So okay,
so that's definitely transferring our money out of that debt-based fiat system into any of our assets, really transferring into these alternative currencies.
So that being said, it's like that's very important, but it's also important to have cash on hand as well. Okay, because we've seen lots of problems lately where banks have been offline for a few hours or sometimes even a couple of days. If you're in that situation and you need to go out and do some grocery shopping, or an emergency comes up where you need to pay for something, it's really important to have at least a little bit of cash on hand. Okay, so you can cover yourself in those situations.
Yeah.
So even though it's no debt-backed fiat currency, it's still good to have the cash equivalent of that if you can. And once again, it comes back to having stuff in your possession. Okay, so that's pretty much the sole message of what I'm trying to say here today is like, whatever type of investment you have, you might not have anything except just cash. All right, and you might have a lot of it. Try at the very least to have like as much of that cash in your physical possession as possible, or not, or if you can't do that, don't have it all in one bank. Okay, scatter it around between multiple banks or multiple accounts.
And the smaller banks, the local credit unions and stuff like that. Yeah, definitely.
So and the reason why it's important to spread your money across a whole bunch of smaller accounts is because each country has I can't remember what the exact acronym is. FDIC is one of them, but your funds, your bank account funds, are guaranteed to a certain extent by your local government in most countries. Okay, but there's up to a limit. Okay, so it could be 100,000, it could be 250,000. If you have a lot of money sitting in your bank account, let's say you're lucky enough to have a couple of million, you don't want to have it all sitting in one account. You want to spread it across whatever the FDIC requirements are for your country. Okay, so let's just say it's 100,000, you have $1 million in your bank account. You want to spread it across 10 bank accounts. So if the bank collapses, you haven't lost your money.
Perfect. I love it. Oh, Marco, this has been so informative and exciting. I can't wait to share it with my audience. It's been a pleasure
sharing this with your audience.
Yeah, and I just want to say we are planning to do at least one, perhaps two more interviews in the upcoming month. And some of the things that we want to go into, absolutely, we'd be open to taking questions from the audience and going a little deeper into some of these areas. But Marco also brought in the topics that I'm super fascinated by, ancient history of money, and particularly the smashing of the tablets and the debt jubilees, the Egyptians, the Phoenicians, the Etruscans, the Venetians, the banking in the Middle Ages. Oh my gosh. The modern history of money, JFK, Nixon, and the rise of the petrodollar. So those are some of the things we can look forward to in future conversations between us. And is there anything else you want to leave the audience with before we sign off for today, Marco?
Just one thing, Charlotte, just make sure whatever investment you have, just try and keep it as much in your own possession as possible. So make sure you have some cash. Make sure if you have precious metals that you actually own the physical versions of it, not certificates. And if you have crypto, store them in a hardware wallet or a software wallet or a web wallet.
And skim your profits.
Oh, yes. Don't forget to let the ice cream is what we're doing.
Yeah. So. Skim your profits and put it into something tangible.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. Thank you ever so much, Marco. Good luck, everyone. Hope this information is helpful. We'll see you soon.